Welcome to another episode of the Bhandwagon podcast. And today is a podcast that I'll be trying to put together for a while because it's a very special one. Let's put it this way. It's the most amount of people I've had in a podcast virtually. And it's probably the safest that I feel as well at this point because I've been knackered, and I'm sure we're gonna go through a lot of kind of emotion in the next few sort of hour or so, I reckon. So on that, without further ado, I want to gladly introduce the guests, which I'll let them do individually because they're all fairly unique in their own special way. But it's Asian Women Means Business crew. I'm gonna put everyone say hello. How's it going?
Hey Ricky, yeah, we're good. Thank you for having us on.
I'm hoping the sound doesn't conveys through pretty well.
Yeah, it does. No, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so I ain't going to nominate who's going to be able to speak on what bits because this is entirely your space. But when I came across sort of your journey, I saw it on social media, and then that kind of spurred it on because I was like, how have I missed this? Like the stuff that you've been doing, how have I missed it? I'm fairly active on social media to see this bit, and I just kind of went into.
Well, you can't have been that active if you missed stuff.
Well,
but also, can I say you're not actually our demographic. The clue is in the title, Asian women.
Well, see, I'm kind of like, I'm trying to be a little bit more eclectic in my algorithm. So I've done stuff around endometriosis. I've been trying to self-educate myself on a few things because what I felt is, I've got a daughter as well. And I just sometimes I feel like some of the conversations I'm missing out when she's having those conversations with her mom. So I wanted to kind of be aware of stuff, and then you see people's situations even within your friend circle that what they're going through, and some of the topic areas that you guys have covered. When I've kind of fleeted and I went down the rabbit hole, I thought, this needs to be, even though I might not be the demographic, the sound bites are still relevant to everyone. So kind of in terms of you mentioned the kind of the demographic. How did this come about then? What did you feel the need was to kind of set this whole organization up?
So that would be me. Hi everyone, I'm Rupinder Kaur. I'm the founder of Asian Women Mean Business, and really it came about because I felt that there was something missing that I was missing. I felt that I was missing community. I felt that I was missing a sisterhood. I felt like I was missing like-minded women. And the saying goes, sometimes you've got to set the table. You've got to make the table. If the table hasn't been created for you to join, you have to do it. So look, here's the thing. The desire was very selfish because I felt like this is something that I want, and if I want it, I'm sure there's other people that would want it. And our focus is very much on being an uplifting space for South Asian women, where we come together and we talk about personal development, about growth, about things that I wasn't seeing being spoken about in any other space. And it's been brilliant. And these incredible ladies are part of it. And I'm sure we're going to talk about our Kilimanjaro journey as well. That came up.
And Machu Picchu coming up.
Yes, we got Machu Picchu next year.
Yeah, see, look, man, this is the advertising bit. I'm trying to get it going for next year as well. You know what I mean? I mean, it's really interesting you say that. One of the things that I specialize in, I was just talking a little bit off camera, was around substance misuse and bringing people in from the community and trying to fight those barriers, let's say cultural biases and barriers within organizations to try and get the Asian kind of voice out there. And something that you said is something like I put on my Instagram once, which was like, I was fighting to get onto that table until I made my own table, sat there, and I called them for dinner.
Yes, love that,
because it was around that those needs and stuff were not being represented. So when something comes like that together and you've had that self epiphany, how do you then plan out what the next steps look like? Because to even have that skill of to create something is one thing, but the next steps to move it forward are even harder, I believe, because you could do something around a campaign around one subject area, but then to plan it out is a lot more difficult to do, to have that consistency. How did you guys kind of cater for that, and what was support coming in at that point?
So my background is in psychology and HR. I'm in human resources for 15 years, and through that I saw a lot. Like, and the story I often share is I was 27 when I got promoted. I was head of HR at 27 years old for a region. Walked into the regional board meeting, and all the faces I saw looking back at me were male, pale, and stale. There was no one that looked like me. And I just remember thinking, like, where are all the brilliant women that I went to uni with? Like, where are all these incredible women that studied with me? And when I was talking to them, all of them were like administrators, assistants, juniors. And I said, look, we've all done the same degree. We've all got the same passion and the same ambition. How can it be that I'm here and you guys are doing this? So then I just decided that here's the thing, when you make it, you've got to look behind you and you've got to take people with you. And so sometimes there's this mentality, I'm going to be the only one that's made it. I don't want to take anyone else with me. But through that, I was like, no, we're not doing that. So I started doing coaching and mentoring and started sharing with other women. I am unapologetically, unashamedly all about South Asian women. That's me, that's my community, that's my daughter, that's my mother, that's my sisters that are here today. Because I believe when South Asian women make it, when we're in the boardrooms, when we're running these businesses, when we are financially independent, this world will be a better place. So I started doing coaching and mentoring, and then did my qualifications in that, and then set up A.W.M.B. But in terms of how I did it, I did the thing that, like, we say to others to do. I got advice. I spoke to people. I spoke to coaches and mentors. I spoke to others. I saw what others were doing in the space with memberships, with workshops, with retreats. There's a lot of white women that are doing what I'm doing. None of us are reinventing the wheel unless we're Elon Musk and about to do, Tesla or about to do SpaceX. None of us are doing anything that's brand new. There's a blueprint out there already. So you take that, you speak to those people, and you think about how you can apply it. And that's exactly what I did. And a lot of what I do, as I say, is always kind of following my passion. And I just think if I'm into it, maybe there'll be others. So, we have a paid book club, which is a self-development book club. I choose a book, 10 women join me, we read it together, we dissect it, we talk about our learnings. We have our membership club, which is all about personal and professional development. We do workshops and retreats. And as a part of that, the next evolution was, we don't see enough brown women going on epic adventures. Like, we can all go and book a holiday in Dubai and go and sit on a beach for 5 days, but we don't see enough women outdoors. And that's what we wanted to bring in. That's what we wanted to introduce. And that was the sort of theory behind the Climb Kili with AWMB this summer.
I mean, that's incredible in terms of having it kind of articulated in such a trying to professionalize a desi market to such a level of, like, it's so professional in what you've said. That is just the standard of going into any kind of working environment and having that structure. So, like, well done to that. That's unbelievable. So in terms of like Kieran and Belinda, obviously Rupinder's just started that bits off. In terms of your own journey, because obviously you'll have an idea of what you wanted. What was the first part of attraction into thinking that, what is this about? I'd love to be a part of it.
In terms of being part of AWMB?
Yeah.
So I'll be honest, I'm Rupinder Benji's like very own little fan club. And I started with Ignite, and it was a workshop, and it was my first introduction into a workshop of that setting, and honestly it blew my head away. I found her at a perfect time, because I had just lost, well, I say just, but I'd lost my father, and I was an adult woman with grown children, and the first funeral I'd been to was my dad's. So I was in a bit of a real, like, and also nobody talks about death. Like, it's such a taboo subject. Like, death is something nobody talks about. We got into Ignite workshop, and I didn't even know what had made me go there. I had found her on Instagram, fell deeply in love with her, decided this is who I want to be when I grow up, realized I had grown up. And what I realized is my grieving process started. And I tell you what, it was the unraveling of something that I didn't even know I had like really wrapped up so beautifully and tapped away somewhere. And so for me, it was a form of therapy. It was a form of exposure to something I'd never seen in my life before. You know, there was stuff that I didn't even know that, you know, it was really, and it was stuff that was so basic yet, but and I thought I was really like, you know, well traveled. I thought I knew stuff, but I learned things that I just thought, gosh, this is so basic. Why has nobody had these conversations with us? And actually, I'm the mum of a little girl. I don't want her to grow up like me, feeling so confused. So it was, for me, it was the unraveling of something so beautiful that's led to like journeys, epic adventures that honestly 10 years ago I would never even have imagined.
Oh, well, I mean, thanks for sharing that, because it having those kind of shares and stuff that's the empowerment in terms of the story, and especially kind of speaking about it. I come from like an addictions background, and then when you hear kind of people who have that lived experience and put it in their way, you know, there's always something that you can always take something away from that. And you know, I think a few things that you said were very relatable. And then with yourself, Belinda, was that kind of a similar journey, or was it a little bit different, or is this part of that fan club that's getting bigger and bigger?
Yeah, we're part of the fan club.
Rupinder, we're actually related, so.
So that don't count.
So can I say something? Actually? I'll let Belinda come in, Vicky. So Belinda and I are related. She's my cousin. But I'm telling you, she's the most cynical person you'd ever meet.
Yes.
I like that.
I said to her, she just looks at me like incredulous, like, what is this? And also, actually, I think it's much harder sometimes to get family on board.
Oh, yeah.
So having said that, now I'll let Belinda share her.
Do you actually, how does the family follow you on socials and stuff? That's a big challenge as well, because like, you can send stuff out. I do it with my podcast. I'll send it out and I still get the same people. Your biggest fans are your strangers. There's never a true saying.
Well, no, I'm really lucky.
Well,
Belinda is my biggest fan.
Okay,
she is my ride or die, but we're just very different, and we just so I think when I launched Inspire Club and you joined, I think she didn't know, like, and now it's been 2.5 years, it'll be 3 years, but like, why don't you share, Lynn? Like, what you thought?
Well, like you said, I'm cynical, and I was like, yeah, I know she's wicked, but what am I actually going to get from this? I was thinking, like, normally we have our own conversations and stuff, and she's always been there for me, so I was like, well, what's the point? But I'm telling you, it was something that I didn't know that I needed. The community she set up, I thought it was just her that was like this, and that was it. But it's just a group of the most amazing women and cheerleaders for whatever you want to do. It's not just for people that have businesses, just for self-development. Like for me, I know in confidence, I thought I was confident, but I do struggle a bit. I have dyslexia, so just self-confidence, and even doing this podcast. I've never done a podcast before.
Oh, wow.
I just find it really difficult even speaking in front of others, thinking that, do I sound a bit dumb? And so I think just in my own head. But being part of this community has just helped me grow so much that I've got so much more confidence. That's unbelievable.
Well, I couldn't tell that you didn't have any confidence. I mean, that is, it's quite a statement to come out to be like that. I think we do take it kind of for granted, especially if you're in a public speaking environment, that everyone feels comfortable in sharing and speaking their stories as well. So, you guys have come together, you're in the first stages. How did you decide in terms of which kind of campaigns or things that you wanted to concentrate on? Because if people are coming from different, even with this conversation, people are coming with different baggage, a bit, different agendas in terms of their head or something that they want to seek. How did you how as a group do you decide, okay, for this year we want to do this, or this is the vision? Is it still kind of driven by yourself, Rupinder, or is it kind of more, I'm trying to get
Democratic. There's no democracy. I just say
it's Rupinder.
Yeah, I just so
ਸਾਡੀ ਬਈ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਆ ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਆ ਅਸੀਂ ਹੱਥ ਉੱਪਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੱਥ ਰਾਜ਼ੀ ਆ
that's Bachchan. No, so look, here's the thing. So for example, the three of us are mums. We've got kids. We've got 8 kids between us. These two have got 3 each. I've got 2. they're both of them are professionals. We have others who are professionals. So, and I'm really clear about what's important in life. Like, my family are important, my kids are important, and so everything I do has to fit around that. And so I'm very deliberate and intentional in what I do and how I set the agenda. So we have Inspire Club, which is a membership club. You join that. We open doors just once a year. We get a cohort join us, and then we have a library of content. But I design the content, so I am the expert in South Asian women in terms of, especially now, like I've been doing this now for 19 years. I have been coaching and mentoring. I did my degree 21 years ago, did my master's 19 years ago. So I know what it takes for South Asian women. So and because I've been in the corporate world, if someone comes to me and says, Rupinder, I want to get into the C-suite, I want to be a director, well, I know what it takes to get there. If you are, so Kiran's a teacher, we know what it takes to get women to those roles, and it's confidence, it's visibility, it's personal branding, it's presentation, and what we do in Inspire Club is focus on all of that. So we give you the opportunities, like to come and talk with an Inspire Club. We give you the tools. What I didn't want to do with what we're doing with AWMB, it couldn't be just another inspirational platform that was posting uplifting quotes. But what about, so when you post stuff and say be confident, well, how do I be, what are the steps involved? If I'm here, how do I get here? Well, I have a degree in psychology. I can tell you, I can show you, I can tell you what the research says, what others have done, what works for me to get you from here to here. So I set the agenda. We do 6 themes throughout the year. Then we just do like in-person events, and we try to keep everything in keeping with our values around adventure, around joy. Life is difficult enough, especially the last 2.5 years. Like we don't want AWMB and what we're doing to be difficult. We want to come together. We want to have fun. We want it to be uplifting. We want to do stuff that's outdoors. So we do stuff like we go for hikes. We do the colour run. 20 of us went to see Alicia Keys in concert. I try to do things that are going to encourage women to step out of themselves and embrace their confidence and do stuff that they wouldn't normally do.
I think one of the hardest skills to have is that bit of self-reflection. So I wanted to kind of ask this question earlier on, and then may dwell on it on a different angle when we get to the kind of Kilimanjaro bit. But from where you are now as women in this section and this moment in time, what one piece of advice would you have given yourself as when you kind of, Rupinder, you're slightly different because you've built it, but when you joined and started to feel more empowered?
God, I wish I'd done it sooner. I wish there was somebody around sooner, because here's the thing, me wanting to do it sooner, that's all fine. But where was I going to find that person? And had I stumbled across Benji on, some weird algorithm meant I found her on Instagram. Actually, it wasn't a weird algorithm. It was meant to be. This was meant to happen. That's why I found her. And for me, I'm just so grateful, because I don't think there's any aspect of my life that I can't say hasn't evolved, hasn't developed, because of me being part of this, call it empowerment group, whatever you want to call it, but it's helped me develop so much and come out of like the stupid little shell that I was in, because I'm from a really small town in Gravesend where don't be seen, hide, Bolanani Hega, and I got married and I just became that shadow as well. Just stay in the shadows. And actually, that's not who we're supposed to be, because we're just living a life. There's just so much to say, Hannah.
Yeah, no, I get it, because it's like, to do it sooner. It's easier said than done as well, isn't it? It's just that at the end of the day, it was meant to be at that time to go to. It depends what your philosophy is, isn't it? It's like that's your hook 'em. That's the way it was going to be, and to get to that point. But then, what about yourself? Was it that one bit of advice that you would have given yourself?
not to lose yourself, really. I think because life happens. I got married, and then responsibilities took over, and just life started to happen, and I actually forgot who I was, what I liked, what I enjoyed. All of it kind of disappeared as years went on. And then when I became a mom, you could have asked me, oh, what's your favorite color? What do you enjoy doing? What film? I literally would not really have an answer for anything, because everything was just about everybody else, and nothing really became about me anymore. Till obviously, Rupinder and her Asian Women Mean Business. That just brought it all back out. Thinking, actually, who am I? I was asking all these questions and I didn't know the answers. So it's just to not forget who you are.
What were in terms of the challenges to kind of break through this? What was some of the challenges, like the stigmas that were around to kind of break through, and how did you break through it? Because you've got your 19 years of experience to do that. You've set this successful kind of group and then you're out in the, you've got your pathway there. What were the obstacles that you had to navigate through?
So I think even with me, it was self-belief and self-doubt in terms of, I'm like this, but are others like this? Is there enough interest in self-growth, self-development? Because what was happening, Ricky, because of my background, I was going to conferences, I was going to events, I was going to networking events. I just never saw women like me, never sasaw them. And so I remember one year I went to this massive conference. There were like 700 people there. There was 3 brown women there. And that's in the audience, never mind speaking. Like, it just wasn't happening. And so one of the things I always talk about is what we're doing within AWMB Inspire Club is, I just want to build our women's confidence to such an extent. They go to these events. I want them to go to networking events. I want them to go to conferences. I want them to, next time there's an opportunity at work or with their business, that they pick their hand up and they volunteer and say, yes, I'll do that, because I wasn't seeing enough of that. But here's the thing. We have to create those safe spaces, especially for all of our community, but especially for the women in our community. Because what's happening with the women in our community is we're being shut down at home. But, if you've had the kind of a background that we've had, which is you listen to your parents, you listen to your dad, you listen to the community, it's all about what everyone else will say, you forget who you are, and then you get married, and then the pattern repeats itself. So you're shut down at home, and then when you go out to work, you're shut down at work. So where do we have these spaces where we get to talk about the stuff that we're going through? When we get to talk about, actually, you know what, there's a promotion coming up, I really want to go for it, who can help me? Well, we can help you. Or I want to start this side hustle, how can I make that happen? We have so many women doing that. So when you see other women doing it, you think, oh yeah, I can do it too. So my thing was, can I do it? Is there enough of an appetite to do it? But I always just think, if you lead with integrity and authenticity, so everything I do is about, oh, I think I'd like this. That's how the Kilimanjaro trip came about. That's how so I just think, if I can lead with that, whoever is meant to be on the journey with me will be attracted and will find their way to me as well. And I just think, more recently, I think in terms of any obstacles that have come up, is the same thing that all of us have in this space. So we get a lot of copycats. There's probably so many other similar.
Is that? Do you see that as a? Okay, let's be honest. Okay, do you see it as like, oh, it's a challenge, or do you just get bitter about it? Come on, because look, even though we can say it, you're always like, what the fuck are they doing, man? You're like, because I'll give you my example. Okay, I'll give you my example. So as I said, I was working in addictions field, and it took me bloody ages to get to this qualified, sit on the table and trying to represent South Asian community. And then there was this group that came on who just was so vocal on social media, had absolutely nothing. There was just nothing professional about them. And then all of a sudden they're sitting on the same table as me, and the commissioners and workers were listening to them, and they were just talking absolute nonsense. And I was like, there's so much damage that can be done because it's not being done in the right way. And I always have that thing that you've got to be very careful with your words, because if the wrong sort of sequence of words now can get you cancelled, can get your organization cancelled, people who you associated with cancelled. you know, it's such a risky time. I've kind of calmed down now in that bit where I'm like, I think as you become a parent, you kind of let it go a little bit and say, that's their life and do it. Is there anything what I've said in that story that kind of resonates with when you see copycats?
There's only one Rupinder.
Well, look, here's the thing. I think, firstly, no, what you said resonates. I'll tell you what really worries me. I actually don't like using the word coach, and because I think it's a really heavy loaded word. And the fact is the coaching industry is not regulated, unlike therapy, unlike psychotherapy. So anyone can set up themselves up as a coach. And we definitely had this thing where lots of women were calling themselves coaches. And I was just like you, it concerns me because of the credibility and the damage they can do if you're not qualified, if you're not certified. But as Kieran said, there's no one that I can say this with absolute clarity and conviction and confidence. There is no one else, no other South Asian woman who is doing what I'm doing that has my level of knowledge, my qualifications, my credibility. No one. So here's the thing. AWMB and Inspire Club, we are the Rolls Royce. I have invested so much money in the infrastructure, in the membership, in the everything, in myself. I invest in myself, in my coaching. I have only ever gone to the very best coaches and mentors out there. And I take that learning, I come back to my community and we share it, we talk about it and I dissect it. I don't think there's anyone that can compare and touch what AWMB is doing. And I say that with the humility and with the hand of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, because all of this is Guru Sahib's blessing. I literally, and these ladies know this, I look around sometimes. We had our, we had our big Inspire Fest event. We had 150 women. We had 130 women and 20 younger girls, because I wanted our daughters to be in a room of powerful South Asian women and to be able to say to themselves, actually, if I want to be a mechanic, if I want to own a garage, I can do that. If I want to be an artist, I can do that. If I want to be a spoken word creative, I can do that. If I want to be a lawyer, if I want to be a doctor, we can do anything, right? So we had 150 women and in this room. And we had Preet Jandi there was our guest speaker. We had Tulsi there. We had the most phenomenal speakers. All of our suppliers were South Asian women. I looked around and I just thought, how is this even possible? Like, how is this possible? And it's possible because we have the most incredible group of women. And so, our women go to, women join different networks. They joined, but they always come back. They always come back and tell me. And so where I'm at the moment is I think it's really important to stay in your lane. I think when we watch athletes, so when you're watching like someone like, Mohammed Farah or Usain Bolt, when they're getting ready and they're getting geared up for their race, they're not looking around. They're not looking to see, they're like eyes on the prize. They're going for it because they're in their lane. They know they're the best. So what do they have to worry about? So I feel very similar to that. Like, I'm so confident in what I do. In our Inspire Club, we have over 70, nearly 80 testimonials online of current members. If someone chooses to leave our community, they go with our blessings, but we take down their words. And that's integrity, because I never want anyone to join my community and say, oh, for example, I read the words of Kiran and then I've joined the community and Kiran's not there anymore. I never want to have any of that coming back to me. So our results speak for themselves. Our community speaks for themselves, and that means that I don't need to worry about what other people are doing.
Okay.
There you go. So, Ricky, any more questions?
No, I'm about to sign up myself, and then I have to take a check in it. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, okay, right. I'm gonna be
Ricky. That's how we feel.
Yeah,
that's how we feel. That's the inspiration. That's the level of pump. I always use the word like pump, but that's how pumped we are after being in that environment around that many women, and we just think to ourselves, yeah, we can do it.
Ricky, I fundamentally believe there's nothing. None of these women can come to me and say, Rupinder, I want to do this, and I would never say that's not possible. And what I always say is, we live in a world where rocket ships are being built to go to Mars, right? We live in a world where anything is possible. There's nothing, no one can come to me and say, I want to do. There's always going to be a way that we as a community, as a group of women, can find the way for that person to move forward, and whatever that is, whether that's business, whether that's politics, whether that's their career, whether they want to write a book, whether they want to launch, whatever it is, we will make that happen, because I believe that anything is possible. So when you have that, and when you have this army of women, like all of it is possible.
Yeah, take my money.
Please.
I'm gonna be really interested now in Belinda's cynicism on the next bit. Okay, so this is because I'm like a little bit like that. Okay, so how did the idea of Kilimanjaro come about? And then I want to know Belinda's first thoughts.
So, okay, so I'll tell you how it came about. 20 years ago, when I graduated university, I wanted to go to Africa. I wanted to go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro. You know, in my soul, and the Belinda and Kieran have both, this is true for everyone, but this is very, very much true for women. In our soul, we know what we want to do. We have dreams, we have aspirations. But the minute you whisper that to others, it's about how that's going to be received. And is that going to be supported, or is it going to be shut down? 20 years ago, so I'm from inner city Wolverhampton. 20 years ago, I could not have gone to my very busy immigrant parents, you know, I'm the first British born in my family, and said, I want to go to Africa to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Like my dad wouldn't even allow me to go on those school trips where you used to go in residential. He wouldn't have he would have been like, that's not happening, lad. I didn't.
Yeah, just on that, my daughter just went on a residential trip for a couple of days, and the only thing that was going in my head, oh, is she warm? Is she, you know, I just turned into like my BB when I used to come back from clubbing. I used to come back at clubbing at half 12. I used to be the first one out of the lads to come home, and she'd be waiting up. We used to all be in the same like room, and she used to have it, but we used to be on like a bunk bed. And she goes, Ricky, tu aa gaya? And I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah. She goes, oh, mera 10 horta randa ho gaya. You know, all this, and you're like, oh. And now we've got a digital bibby now with the ring. So every time you see ring, you know, I get notifications. Oh, so what time did you come home? Oh, about 11, 12 o'clock. And then you've got digital big B saying, no, this is what time you come back. I've got all the notifications. So, you know what I mean? I get what you mean. I know that environment 100% where like you got the vision, you know what you want to do, but you're kind of, in a loving way, I would say, kind of like restricted in some aspects.
Yeah, and there was no one around me that was doing it. There was no one around me that would have wanted to have done it. So I just left it. And then I did my master's, did my career. I met my husband when I was 23. We got married when I was 25. We bought our house when we were 26. I was 26. And that was it. Like your career takes off, you have kids. And literally, it was a few years ago. So I turned 40 last year. So a few years before that, I think I was 38. And I just was like, I'm going to be 40, and I wanted to do this, and I never did it. And here's where I would just say I give kudos to my husband, because he said to me, he was like, Rupinder, you know, if you're waiting for me, I'm never going to want to do it. And I think that's what I was waiting for. I was waiting for us to do it together. He was like, I don't want to do it. I have no interest in going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. If you want to do it, you need to do it. And so I just thought, right, I need to do it then. And so I had booked by myself to join another group. Like, you know, you can book in to join these groups. And I was going to do it in 2019, and then 2021 is when I turned 40. So I wanted to do it in 2020. And obviously the pandemic happened, all of that stuff got cancelled. But here's what I would say. If you've got a dream, even if it's been postponed, you have to talk about it. So I was just talking about it. So I was telling the ladies, I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to be 40 and I've booked Kilimanjaro. It's been postponed. And then slowly but surely, like these women started whispering back, and they were like, what, can we come? Like, are you doing? And actually Belinda said something to me, and it always stayed with me, because she said to me, are you, and then I hear her, so she said, are you doing this to get away from us, or can others come? And I was like, oh, actually, I don't know. I was like, yeah, others can come. And then when I realized that there were more women that wanted to do it, I just thought, right, this is a really great opportunity. Like, why can't we go as a group? Why can't we do it as a dedicated group? And so I found a travel provider. They specialize in adventure holidays for women. And we went through them because that was really important. It was important that we went with someone who was established, it was safe, you know, all of this stuff. And I was shocked. I was shocked at the women that booked on. I was shocked at the women that said they wanted to do it. But I mean, ask Kieran and Belinda what their thoughts were and why they did it.
Belinda, please, was there some cynicism? Because if somebody floated that kind of idea, you're like, what are you doing?
Well, to be honest, I was a bit of a hippie back in my youth. So I loved walking, trekking. Like, I didn't want to have a driving license. I was like, no, I don't need it. I can just, I used to walk loads. So that's what I meant when I said you kind of lose yourself and you forget who you were. Yeah. So, she mentioned it. And then I know she likes to have time on her own as well. That's why I said to her, I was like, oh, is it something you want to do on your own? But when she called me, I wasn't actually in a position to even be able to even think that I could do such a trip. So yeah, she told me, and I was like, well, no, COVID had just happened, and financially there was no way I could do it. And she just rang me up and said, can I have your passport number? I don't know if you rang me or if you text. And she'd booked me, as in she'd booked it for me. She's like, well, and I wasn't in good health either. So she was like, listen, you work on your health, sort yourself out. I want to do this for you. And literally that, I think, just set the foundations for the whole trip, because this is someone who's not making her own. So making your own dreams come true, that's fine. You can all do that, yeah, and be capable of doing that. But to make someone else's dream come true is just something else. And this is what she did for me. So, sorry. Yeah.
I think what you said is so rare, and it's kudos to you as well. Is to make somebody else's that is gup seva as well. That is the.
Well, it's not very gup now because she's
not gup now.
Well, I was gonna say I kind of stopped halfway through. I thought, hang on a second, this is a big compliment. Yeah. Anyway, you get what I mean. In some ways, to provide that opportunity to somebody else is so rare, and to do that is fantastic. And I think it's something that everyone could take away. Yeah,
I did. I have to tell you that my husband did say to me when everyone booked on. So this trip was fully booked within like 10 days or something, maybe even less than that.
So how many of you were at that point?
14 of us. Wow. 15 actually. Then someone couldn't make it due to ill health. But my husband actually said to me, he said, I thought you were crazy, but he said the fact that you've got 14 other women that are as crazy as you, he was like, I don't get what's happening here. But I tell you what happened. Because we booked on, and because the ladies saw who was booking on, they just thought, hold on, I've got a husband, I've got kids, but Rupinder's doing it, Belinda's doing it, Kieran's doing it. And if they're doing it and they're having those conversations with their in-laws and their husbands, I need to go and have that conversation because I want to do this. And that's what happens. That's what I was saying. Like when one of us does something, we take others with us on the journey as well and give them permission to do it.
With yourself, what was your kind of first reactions to it? Was it something that you wanted to just jump on straight away, or was it you're not talking about like a walk in the park? This is like one of the biggest peaks in the world.
Yeah, and shall I tell you what? So this year it was, and I know I'm so sorry, I'm so morbid, I keep talking about death.
No,
but it was 10 years to my dad passing away, and we've raised so much money for British Heart Foundation. I thought, how can I keep, it's 10 years is such a huge momentous, like he's been out of my life for 10 years. How do I keep him alive? And I realized that this came, and like, I was still in like Jakarta, and that's when I just thought, this is it. This is for Jogaseng. Even my certificate is my dad's name. It's Jogaseng. It's not on my name. But can I just tell you something really funny? Even before that, I know Benji just said that, we were talking to our in-laws. Actually, Minu Enna Darcy, I actually didn't tell my in-laws. And worse than that, I didn't even tell my mum, because I knew that their reaction would be, yes! And no, you're laughing. But I didn't tell them for 6 months. They didn't know for 6 months. They're going to know. Well, they're not going to hear this podcast, so that doesn't matter, Hannah. But no, but then look, they don't. My mum can just about. She sits on YouTube, so unless you're going to post it on YouTube,
I'm going to send a link.
Send us a
Oh,
link.
you know the bit that I'm clipping.
But you know, can I tell you something funny though? I saw it all, and I whispered the idea to my husband, and he was like, "Tera dimag kharab hai," and I was like, "Well, maybe." And I left it there, and I said to him, "Oh, it's this much money." He was like, "Yeah, do what you want," and that was it. And I was like, "Hey, gosh, Gani," like I was expecting a bit of a no, you can't go, it's too much money. And then later on, like once we put the kids down, he come upstairs, and I was like, "Rav, it's this." And I sat with it for ages. I was like, "Why can't I book it? Like, why can't I book it?" And then I was still saying to Rav, like, "What do you think?" And he goes, "Do you need my permission?" And you know what? That in them words, I realised I needed permission. I'm like, I was just shocked. I was like 38 at the time. I needed permission from another adult who's only a few years older than me to say, yes, you're allowed to do it. And yes, you're allowed to spend the money you are earning.
Yes.
And I was like, what the, like mind blown. What is going on here? I'm a buddy licky, like I'm a professional. Yeah, I'm seeking permission from different people for my life. And I was just like, this is crazy. Surely I can make this decision for myself. And that's when Rav said to me, he goes, you know, you don't need permission. If you want to do it, do it. I wouldn't ask you permission if I wanted to do something. And I was like, huh? Like,
So
are we allowed to do this?
The South prison just went out.
And I was just like, and at that point, like, I think just a little bit after that, I joined the book club. And in the book club, we were reading about, you know, how we can cage ourselves. And, you know, like, and I was like, no, I need to be a cheetah. I need to be a cheetah.
As in the animal cheetah.
Yeah, that's the one, Teja. And I think in that, I realized that here's me saying I've been in this coaching group. I'm really working on myself. But in them few hours, I realized I'm still a bit of a prisoner of my own thought and my conditioning of how I've been brought up, that I really struggled with firstly finding permission, then making a decision for myself, because it felt so big and it felt like such a huge sum of money, because in my head I kept thinking, but I could spend it, or we could all go on a really lush family holiday, and we could do this, or I could do this, or, you know, and I just kept thinking, like, gosh, like, grow up.
Is that a common theme, that when you guys get together, that the image of respect is turned into conditioning, into that self-imprisonment? Because like it feels like that was the turning point of where your husband just saying one line, saying, "Why do you need my permission?" But it was you saying that you were living with your in-laws. It was the respect and trying to do that, and then but it ended up being the conditioning of that, where you weren't able to express your kind of your want and need.
No, I actually didn't know. I didn't realize I thought like that, Ricky. I didn't. I was so blinded by living the way I live. So we could call it conditioning, whatever you want to say. But I was completely, I was in that moment, I was just shocked that this is what I needed in order for me to move forward. But, and again, like, I turned 40 in like a couple of months. And I know that there's still more change to come, because actually learning never stops. And I think the understanding that this journey is just going to help you keep on growing. I don't want to stop growing. I don't want to be like stationary where I was 10 odd years ago. I'm so ready to just carry on learning. And I'm sure there's still so much more learning still to do. But that just booking this trip in itself was like a real, you know, like here's the key to cut the shackles, which I didn't even know I needed.
So logistically, there's 14, 15 of you at the time going, like, all signed up to do. Logistic, how do you coordinate something like that? Because like even that's going to be a bit of a
headache.
Yeah, because you can't go down to like Smethwick High Street and say, go to Southall, I don't know, and say, listen, can you book, a yatra trip, have Barrett coaches go straight there, you know what I mean? How does that work?
So we used a travel provider. They did all that.
Okay.
And we had a travel agent who took care of the flights. But what I was just saying, what I was referring to was that we had to train for this. Like we couldn't, and we were all at different fitness levels. And some of us, like Belinda, used to be really fit, but lost some of that fitness. And Kiran works out. She's a machine. Like she's savage the way she works out. And
उत्थे मैं अपना भोग भी पाया अंदर से
we're all at different levels. And also it's not just about the hiking and the climbing. The fact is you're sleeping on this mountain in a camp using portaloos for a week. And let's be honest, brown women don't go out camping. Like we're not growing up going camping. So in this group, only I think it was just me and Belinda that had been camping, and we only did one night away. And
Belinda's already the impression she's a free spirit, yeah. So she's been. I'm guessing that she's camped before, yeah. I bet you were really comfortable out there.
but so we had to do a camping weekend. We had to really put some key dates in our diary, and that was on us. Like, are we going to do it? But it was brilliant because what it meant was we trained together as a group of women for nearly a year before we went.
Where did you go? Because that was the difficulty through COVID. I mean, it's still COVID restrictions, like.
No, we were just coming out then.
Coming out of it. So where would you go and train around Malvern Hills or anything like that?
So most of it was, for those of us in the southeast, was around Surrey Hills, and just literally wherever. We found a really great company here in Surrey that were doing treks and they were hiring equipment, and Mick had done Kilimanjaro about 10 years ago, so he really helped us. How much of that training came in handy when we were up on there on the mountain, I'm not sure.
Not much.
But we still had to here's the thing, especially during COVID, all of us were used to just sitting on our doing this, sitting on Zoom calls and stuff. So having to walk for hours and hours, building up that conditioning in your leg is something else. It really is.
So you guys were fundraising at the same time, weren't you? And what was around that in terms of the story around it?
So what came to light was that when we booked the trip, Alison, who runs the travel adventure company, said to me, she said, I've never had an all South Asian female group do this. And she said, I think you're the first all South Asian female group to go and climb Mount Kilimanjaro. I was like, nah, I can't be. Like, there's so many women, we know, so my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law have done it. We know so many women from our community that individually have done it. But when I looked into it, she was right. There's never been an all South Asian female group of women that have gone to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. And as soon as we heard that, and as soon as we started talking about that, the feedback was, well, what are you doing about it? How are you going to document it? And I was like, oh, I'll come back and write a blog. We'll take photos. We'll do something, right? And then at the same time, actually, around the time we were training, Preet Jundi, and she's just gone back out to Antarctica. She had just finished her half Antarctic climb, and everyone just kept saying, "Wouldn't it have been amazing if she had had a film crew follow her? Wouldn't it have been amazing if we had got to see this?" And at the same time, Nimsdai, so 14 Peaks had just come out and had smashed it on Netflix. So we were watching that, and he's brilliant. And we were like, "Wouldn't it have been amazing if we could have seen women that looked like us doing it?" So the seed was planted, and we were coerced into, and I've got to be honest, I don't know if we would have done it otherwise, but so many women around us were saying, look, we really think you should think about this and think about how you're going to document it. And so we reached out to a filmmaker, we reached out to Remeth, who did Riot, who did Toxification. She thought it was an amazing idea. She was on board with it. And the seed was planted, like, yeah, let's go and let's take a film crew with us. But here's the thing, and Kiran said it earlier, each of the women that came to Kilimanjaro paid for themselves. We self-funded this trip. No one, it wasn't anyone else that paid for us. And it cost us £7,000, thereabouts. So when this idea was shared with us, it was like, well, where's this money going to come from? Like we pulled together a budget. We spoke to industry specialists. They said, look, even that was crazy because people were like, you will not do a documentary for less than like £250,000 or this or that. And we were like, what the hell? Like, we don't have that money. But eventually with Renmark and with others, we were able to come up with a budget, which at the time was £90,000. And that was like a really conservative budget. And so the budget was presented to me and I was like, right, well, where's this money coming from? Because we've all paid and we have stretched ourselves and we've made compromises and sacrifices within our families and our own, like some of us didn't go on a family holiday because we just did Kilimanjaro, right? But here's the thing, here's the community, our community, so the AWMB community, these women were like, we've got you. You need to do this. We are going to support the fundraiser. We are going to support the documentary because the documentary and the film isn't just about us. It's about the collective us. It's about all brown women. So they got behind us. And so with that, and with that reassurance of we've got you, go and do it, we launched the fundraiser, we launched the GoFundMe. And yeah, we watched that escalate. And I think maybe that's probably where some of the stuff that you saw as well.
Yeah, that was the first bit that I saw. Because then
and it's a hard thing, you know, like to ask. First of all, to ask for money is always really hard. I've never had to do that. I built AWMB taking no sponsorship, no investment. Everything that came in went back into the business. We are the type of people that we're giving. Like we take our dust fund out, we give to other causes. To then have to turn that on its head and ask for money for something that's out there. It's a film, it's a documentary. It's a battle. It's trying to make people understand that. And then, so yeah, there were some comments and feedback about that as well. But on the whole, you know,
what do you mean comments were? So is it the kind of typical kind of reaction where those other people were like jealous and started to say, "Oh, it's a scam, it's this, that, and the other," the usual kind of?
Yeah, I think there was the feedback was, you know, why are you asking for so much money? Why, you know, wouldn't it have been better for this to go to a charity? Wouldn't it have been better to do this? Wouldn't it? And my view was always, people have a choice. They have a choice where they want to give their money. They have a choice whether you want to give it to charity. You have a choice whether you want to sponsor. You have a choice. That everyone has a choice what they want to do with it. I think there was some envy. I think there was some, you know, like that thing that we do in our community, that pulling people's legs down, like who are they? What are they? Why are they doing this? There was also a genuine feeling of other groups had done this and maybe they hadn't done it. And I think they felt like maybe they had missed the boat. And and I think there was one particular group that had tried to launch a GoFundMe for the same thing and it didn't work.
Okay. So
I think there was definitely jealousy. I think there was definitely envy. And I think people can just be really quite bitter when other people are doing really quite well as well. So.
But I think also, can we just add here that all four of us are parents to daughters, and actually, for us three in Inspire, we can really collectively say that our little girls have seen this, have been driven by this, and they're going around saying, well, do you know what, if our mums have done this, we're going to go ahead and do this. And actually that's the catalyst, that's the driver of this project, that I was too scared to ask my husband for money to go and do this, yet my daughter saying, "Chal koi na mum, we're going to go and do flana tamkana." And actually that's what we want for them to grow and say, actually, you've done this, we're going to go 10 steps ahead. And that's what we want, not for them to sit and think, oh, it's so nice such and such is doing this. So this has got to be a catalyst and a driver for our little girls, because they need to see that people that look like them, look like their mums, their massis, their bibiyan, are actually doing something that 20 years down the line will be normal for them, and not South Asian women first time doing something like this.
Bit of a strange question, this one I'm going to ask. Do you remember the night before you were going out? What was that like? Was there any, because like everyone's kind of free to kind of change their mind. Was it kind of the second thoughts, and there was the nervousness kicking in at that point? Are you thinking, I can't back out now?
I don't want to back out.
No, Ricky, masi tane paise kharche si apne aap.
No,
I thought it was going to be a girls' holiday. Didn't realise it was
I think
be
for
that
all
hard.
of us, we were
so excited.
because we'd been fundraising so much.
Yeah.
That had almost taken over the trip itself and the adventure itself. And I speak for all of us. Fundraising it depletes you. It's draining, and it can be quite consuming. So we'd been involved in this, like, and all of a sudden it hits you like, damn, we're going to be going tomorrow. And all of a sudden, like, you have waves of emotion where you feel, and my kids, like, I love them to bits, and I was so excited to be leaving them for 2 weeks. And on that moment, I was just like, oh man, what a crap mum, I can't believe I'm leaving them for 2 weeks. Like, all these like really intrusive thoughts start coming into your mind. But I knew, like, I remember my mum said to me, like, the night before, you know, airport te roi na jai, khushi khushi nyane nu keh ke bye keh ke jai. And that stayed in my head, that I've got to be so positive and let the kids see that I didn't want them to see like a crying, blabbering mum. I wanted them, so I was like, as soon as we went round, I was like,
on the floor, tapping, looking up. Yeah. Okay, so this is the bit where I kind of hand over in some ways. I want you guys to kind of take me through when you on the flight, you land, and your first sort of day of where you're looking at the challenge in front of you. So I'm going to open it. Go on, Kieran, you go. Go, Belinda, you go for it. Go on.
So when we landed, like I said, Kieran, I was a bit opposite to Kieran, really. I didn't feel bad. I was excited. I'm just going to be honest. I didn't feel bad because I've never really done anything like.
I'm back at home, back walking again.
I was just so excited. I thought they're going to have fun with their family, and they've got their nanny, nana, their dad, everyone. Like, yeah, they're going to have their jollies, and I'm going on this girls' holiday. Little did I know, though, it wasn't a holiday. You'll find out later. But yeah, I was excited, man. It was like, yeah, it was going to be epic, and I was like, yeah, it was going to be like a holiday, and yeah, everyone was buzzing, and yeah, I think everyone was just so excited because it's been so long, like with the training and the momentum, and yeah, I think everyone was just on cloud nine. There was a bit of like, obviously, the bit of nervousness, but I didn't do any research, so literally I turned up thinking it was not going to be nowhere as hard as it was. So I don't know whether I would have gone for it if I knew that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think we were all buzzing. I think everybody would agree.
So how long is it, the actual trek itself to the summit and then back down?
20 years.
9 days. Feels like 20 years was 9 days.
9 days.
Up and down. 7 up, 2 down with it. Was that right?
Yeah.
So is that to kind of acclimatise to the kind of oxygen? Okay. All right. Okay. So, okay, I want to ask some of the silly questions, right? Because this is in my head when I would like to travel. I just turned 40, so we went on holiday. But the one thing that I didn't want to ask the question, like, was there any snakes and stuff around? Did you see any that kind of wildlife?
No.
No, it's not, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Although it did feel like that at points.
There was biting ants.
Oh yes, there were ants. There were these terrible ants that bit the ankles, and there were monkeys and
the rat thing.
So the
what? There's what? Say that again.
Well, remember they looked like they were cuter than rats because they looked a bit like budgies. But yeah, like little
with wings. Budgies, flying rat. I've got flying rat in my head.
I don't know where she was. Look, she was clearly.
Remember when we went to the toilets? We saw them walking around.
The birds.
No, the little mousy things.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. They were like aardvarks, almost like. With pointy nose.
Okay. So we've got odd. Okay, I can work with that. So
there probably was snakes,
and there was lots of gelnia.
Okay, that's like the bend anyway, so that's
okay.
We're comfortable with that. I'm just thinking like conditioning myself. I was like, so you go on then. What was the first kind of challenge that came up? Was it? Okay, so there's a laugh. That's a good sign.
No, so look. Here's the thing, right? And I think it's really important that we're honest about this. So everyone that we spoke to that did it was like, you're going to love it. It's brilliant. You're going to have the best time. It's like, you guys have got this. So we knew some of it's going to be a bit challenging, but we thought that was going to come like later in the journey, like when you're tired and
of course.
But the reason I was laughing was because literally you've got to walk up at this to get to the gate to start the hike, and then you start the hike, and literally we were half an hour into it. We were like, I think we just all looked at each other, like, we haven't even got off the tarmac. Like, it
was and you're looking at each other, and there's the camera's on you, and say, "God, no better." You go.
and then day one was the rainforest, but it really hit us, Ricky. We were like, "Oh my God, this is hard. This is
Was
hard."
it heat? Was it heat, or was it just
because it was warm and it was humid
and the amount of stuff you carried?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, you've got your big packs on, and you've got your layers on, and so yeah, we definitely found it, and I think that's why we want to be really honest. It was definitely more challenging than we thought it would be, and that was immediate. It wasn't like later on in the journey. It was straight away. We were like, right, this is going to be tougher than we thought it was going to be.
Because it was dark, wasn't it, when we got to camp? Well, I think I was one of the last ones, and I was badly. I thought, oh my God, how I'm going to be the next day.
So it was dark every night we got to the camp. Let's not lie. It was dark every night.
And so what was it? What was the facilities like? Was it all?
It was 5-star, Ricky.
Yeah.
Was it? Look,
there was like a concierge there.
No, I can get the level of sarcasm. I get it.
So, there was like little black huts, Hannah.
Yeah.
Like not very tall, like small black, and in them is like a training potty.
A portaloo.
Yeah. But it looked like a potty, and I was just like, oh my God. And then they teach you, and it's funny. I've been watching a lot of YouTube, and
I don't want to see your search engine.
How to use a toilet.
To go for a wee, you are about to send an email, and to go for a number 2, you send an attachment, and that's how they talk about it. So they say, if you're sending
code words, just in case you're thinking what you're talking about.
If you're sending an email, this is how to do it. But if you're sending an attachment, this is what you need to do. And so obviously you got to wear your headlight because it's pitch black. And
you're wearing about 10 layers, so you're gonna get all your layers.
It's really not. And you kind of experience a bit of vertigo because like the floor's really like not level,
and it stinks.
Yeah, the smell is not very nice.
Is that from the attachment?
Yeah,
it is from the attachment. And then you get to this stage where you almost become quite attuned to that smell. It becomes quite normal. And it's really funny. For 9 days, like as soon as we come back into civilization, you'd think jidda pani masi milya hunda. I remember going into the toilet hotel and just rubbing my hands like a sedan because I was like, they were so
everything
dirty, and we were eating with these hands. Stop making that face, Ricky. It ain't nice.
No, I'm just no, I get it, because it's like there's risks of like Hep A, especially with with hygiene and stuff like that, and it is one of the arguments that they say in the health that we are a bit too clean because we're more susceptible for it, and our immune system don't go up. So I get what you mean. I was just trying to envisage like myself actually doing that, because I do exactly the same.
So you're hiking during the day, and if you need to go to the bathroom, you're literally going to the bathroom on the mountain.
It's called rock business.
Yeah, just go behind a rock.
Spectator, but everyone's very respectful and mindful. And then by the evening, when you get to camp, they've set up the camp tents for you. So everyone had a tent buddy. That we had like a little mattress, but they brought our stuff up, but we had to unpack our sleeping bags. We had to get our sleeping bags sorted, get changed, and then you have a separate tent, which is your mess tent, and then they have a kitchen tent. The mess tent is where we all go and eat together. But they had like toilets for us. But it's no showers. none of those facilities. You're literally sleeping on the mountain, and you're doing that. Like then you try to get to some sleep, but it's loud, it's noisy. People are up, and you can hear the rustling, you can hear the zips. People are talking, and then you get up in the morning and you do it all over again.
So, a couple of things. What were the temperatures like at night? And a bit of a silly question. What were some of the early risks that you're facing?
It was freezing every night, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was like -15, I think. But the great thing was we had our sleeping bags were amazing. We hired like the best quality sleeping bags. We had liners. Some of us took hot water bottles. So actually, we didn't feel the cold. I didn't feel the cold.
I have to say, like, even on like when it was -30, whatever it was on summit night, yes, it was cold as we were walking, but like, you know, this is where like so much, like Maharaj did so much gerpa on us, because, you know, like Ricky, we talk about miracles. I felt like every moment in that trip, like a miracle occurred. And you know, when we read like Sakya, and sometimes we read them Sakya to our kids, like of like Guru Nanak Dev Ji in the boulder, you know, Sajjan Tug, Bhumia Chor, and you listen to it all and you just think, oh, okay. But I think when we were talking to our children, even now afterwards, you know, we were Sajjan Tug, you know, some of us were like, we put a face on of something, thinking, yeah, we can do this, I believe in this, you know, Guru Nanak Dev Ji is with us. But actually, when we got there, did we truly realize that Guru Nanak Dev Ji is with us? They have not left us, and they have kept their loving hand on each of our heads. Because I truly believe, like, even like our porters, our guides, at that point, they are Rabra Roop. Our lives are in their hands. When we climbed Barranco Wall, there was nothing stopping us from falling to our death.
Okay, so just tell us a little bit about what wall, what was it, Branco Wall?
So Barranco Wall is like where it's like a it's a freestand as like a scramble, and essentially there's nothing holding us, and we're climbing kind of like at points on hands and knees up this, and the guides know which routes to take and how to maneuver. And at one point I remember thinking, like, how the hell are we going to climb this? And from far back, the people that are climbing it, they look like ants. They look like ants climbing. And we're going up this, and all of a sudden, just when we think like, gosh, this is so difficult, like Maharaj sends some frishte, and these porters that we thought were just porters, we didn't realize that they were with our team. You know, they gave so much pump, like they got so much spirit, and they're like picking us up, like dragging us up raggy dolls. And then we find out that they're our kitchen staff, they're our cooks. And they were just trying to run ahead of us so they can set up camp and start cooking. And you know what? Like, they gave us so much pump. And I kid you not, when I say, like, they were just getting our legs and hands, pushing us up like this. And I was just like, gosh, look how lucky we are. Look at these people, and look how Maharaj keeps sending them. It was just, it was phenomenal. Even when I talk about Branco Wall, my hair stands on end. It was so special. And at that night, at that day, when we got to the tip of Branco Wall, at that point, we're standing in the clouds.
Above the
top of the clouds.
Yeah.
So your pictures and the footage is going to be amazing, isn't it? When it comes. So, with all the will in the world, like even if you're spending so much time with each other, was there any points where it was really, where to kind of lift the morale up, or motivation was low, or trying to encourage people to come along? How did you kind of sustain that? Is that where your skills came in more and more at that bit, Rupinder?
So before we went, we had a conversation, and we had a really candid conversation about how are we going to let each other know when we need alone time, because like to be with a group of women for this amount of time, how are we going to let each other know when we're feeling down? And actually one of the questions I asked was, what's my role? Like, how do you want me? And everyone said, you're just one of us. Like, you're not our coach, you're not our leader, you're not this, you're not that. You are just one of us. And so we look towards the guides, but for their expertise. But what I think was amazing was that we were all really supporting each other, and we were really vested in each other. And this is where I think this trip and doing trips with people who you know is so different. I didn't want to just summit. I didn't want to just make it myself. I wanted everyone else to make it. And we all felt like that. Like we all, so when one of us was feeling low, another one would pick them up. And like there was a point where, so Kieran had really bad altitude sickness, like really bad. And I remember there was a point when we went to Lava Tower, and I just remember because she wasn't eating. And I remember seeing Belinda cutting this potato into the tiniest little pieces and literally spoon feeding, like say, because what the guides had said to us, if you don't eat, your altitude sickness will get worse and you're off the mountain, we're taking you off. We didn't want Kieran to get off we didn't want anyone that to happen. So literally in that moment, I was watching Belinda. I was like, oh my God, like she's literally feeding. That's the level of sisterhood we had. That's the level of commitment we had to each other. We had done this with a group of 14 strangers. I don't know if there would have been that. Like, I don't know.
I don't think that nobody would have really cared, because everyone is in a state. Let's be honest, wasn't it? Everyone's like battered, but then to find energy for someone else, really, if they're strangers, I don't think you're no way gonna have that kind of that love and that sisterhood to say, actually, it's not just about me. No one, you're not really gonna go out your way for someone else when you can just about pull up yourself together, really.
Yeah. And I just want to kind of move it to the feeling of reaching the summit. Is there any way to kind of put it into words what that was like, or is it just too much of an emotion to articulate?
Everyone was like zombies. I don't know about what you guys, but I remember getting to the top and they were like, oh, look at the sunset. Well, halfway to the top, I was like, I don't really give a shit about the sunset. I feel so battered, because it's so many hours and they're telling you you're nearly there, and literally the nearly there never kind of comes.
Is that it?
So to summit Kilimanjaro, we left at midnight.
Okay.
And you're walking through the night, and at some points you're sleepwalking because you're walking through the night, right? And bearing in mind, you've had how many nights sleeping on the mountain? You've not slept. You've not had a good night's sleep, so you're exhausted. So by the time we got to summit, it was like 8, 9 in the morning. We'd been walking for 8, 9 hours. We were exhausted. Like me and Kieran, I was ready to give up. Actually, I think I did give up. I was like, and literally, I was there. So there's 3 summit points in Kilimanjaro. There's Gilman's Point. That's what the route we did. The route we did, there's Stella Point and Uhuru Point. The Stella Point was literally there, and I couldn't get there. I couldn't get there. And I can't even explain the lack of motivation, energy I had. And I just couldn't do it. And I was looking at Kieran, and Kieran couldn't do it. And I absolutely, like, we would not have summited if it wasn't for Belinda at that point. So because Belinda just smashed it. It was like a vision. I don't know where she got the strength from, but I
don't either.
And she had this.
She had the shaheeds with her.
Yeah,
but Belinda, she had the shaheeds with her. I saw her. She was doing Jakarta from the peak. I could from the summit, and I could see her. She's got Nishan Sab on her. She's waving the Nishan Sab. She's doing Jakarta, and in my heart, do you know what I honestly thought? I thought, I'm so grateful you've made it. And at that point, I could hear her, but I had no will in the world to want to get there. And honestly, it was like I was about 20 feet away, but it was like, the terrain, it was completely uphill, and it was like crushed stone. So it literally just feels like you're moving your foot
and dragged down,
and you're not getting anywhere, and you're stationary. And at that point, I physically gave up. And I remember like Deesh walking ahead, and I remember my porter saying to me, like, do this for your dad. And I said, I don't care anymore. And for your children. And I said, I don't care for that anymore either. And he said, what is wrong with you? And I said, everything. I don't want to do this. And he kind of punched me in my back. And I said, you can slap me in my face, but I'm not going. And I literally was like a really naughty, a really like insolent child who's not moving. I said, you can hit me in my face. I remember saying, hit me here. Because I was at that point, I was adamant, I couldn't care. And then I remember seeing somebody saying like, you're going to get your summit certificate. I think it was one of our guides. I can't remember who. I said, I don't care. And honestly, I think at that point, I must have been like the naughtiest child on because I was like, I just don't care. I've got my porter like, physically abusing me. I'm saying, yeah, hit me here. And then like our guide, she came down. She was like, you can do this. And I was like, no, I can't. And I don't want to. And she was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, everything. I'm not doing it. I'd literally given up. And she turned around, put my hands around and she, around her belly. And she almost like dragged me. And then she said to me, do you want to take a picture? And I said, no, I don't. And she was like, oh. She was like, let me take one of you. I said, no, I don't want it. And I remember thinking like in my head, it was going to be like a Bollywood movie scene where my coat comes off and I'm running around saying, here come at Summit. Instead, it looks like I've done 10 rounds with Mike Tyson and I'm really depressed. My summit picture is just so awful. And it makes me laugh like every time I think about that. But for me, that will be my journey and that will be my story to tell, because I just think it's so funny. That you have so many different thoughts of what you're doing, how you're going to get there. And then all of a sudden, everything changes. Everything you'd imagined, everything you'd perceived, it all goes. And I'll be honest, Ricky, throughout the night, as I was walking up, I was saying to myself, if I fall and smash my head here, then that's a perfect get out clause. I can go back down. And then I kept thinking, they didn't really love the Morgi. Grand moment, I can go back down. I was finding a get out clause for myself throughout the whole night.
So, and I think if we didn't have each other, we wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And was it kind of like at the points of where you reflecting on your life in terms of what you're doing as you were going up? Because like,
why am I doing this?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like,
your life choices.
You've got out of the girls all day in your head. You barely made it to the.
Belinda thought she was going to Tenerife.
Yeah, I thought I was going on my jollies. Seriously,
yeah, you barely made
hard.
You barely made the first bit off the tarmac, and then you've got all these bits going on there. You're like, what part of this is enjoyable? You've got attachments, you've got emails, you've got all these.
But here's the thing, right? Ask these ladies if they would recommend it, if they would do it again.
100%.
100%.
No, I'm not going to do it again. Not that big.
We live in an amazing world. We're not going to do Kitty again. Although, I could be persuaded to do it again. It was amazing. It was amazing because it's that moment you realise what are you made of? What are you made of in that moment when you do want to give up? When you are literally, it's there. And so many people have asked us, I got so many messages, what does it compare against? Does it compare against a marathon? What about this? So I've done a marathon. I've jumped out of I've done a skydive. I did 108 firewalks consecutive. I've done glass walking. I've done loads of stuff, right? Wow. Nothing will compare to this experience and the level of depth that we had to dig, because Summit is just a culmination of all of those days of hiking, all of those days of lack of sleeping. For those who had altitude sickness, like diarrhea, sickness, headaches, it was horrific to get to that point where you were even starting Summit. And then when you get to the point where you're about to do it, it's like, I don't know, like, do I even want this anymore? So yeah, it's the most challenging thing that we have ever done. And actually, what I haven't even talked about is that we're all mums. We've all gone through childbirth. Like we've done the difficult things. It's not like we don't do that, but it was without a doubt the hardest thing any of us have done.
So, like, was the descent like, is there, what's that like? Is there any secrets around that, or was that the
So
happy?
Nobody thought about this descent, did they? It was all concentrate. We're going up. Nobody told us about how
It's like, it was like when I became a dad first, it was all about pregnancy. When the baby came out, I was like, what do I do now? You like, was it like that when you go down there?
I think all of us at some point thought, because we look like the Michelin men, because we've got so many layers on. I think most of us thought, if we cover our face, maybe put hands in front of our face, maybe we can just roll down the rocks, and if we hit a boulder or two, we'll just see. Hopefully, we'll save our head.
I think me and Rupinder actually did do that quite a few times.
But I think our legs, like our calves and our knees, they were like jelly, as if there was no bone in them. And I remember thinking, like, you watch things like cartoons where like they start going wishy-washy and going like wavy. I felt like that's what was happening to our bodies. Like they were like jelly. Like there was just, and on top of that, the sun was blaring, so all of us were walking around with these ripped noses, ripped cheeks. It was just the most funniest descent ever.
But we didn't think it
was funny then, though.
We did it.
I can't wait for it. So the documentary bit, when is there any, what's the plans with that? I don't, because I know even from like editing stuff and fundraising and all these kind of things, like it's, are you able to kind of share where you roughly think when it might be out?
Yeah, so it's being edited at the moment, and we are it's not going to be released until next year. Our aim with the documentary is we want to pitch it. We want to pitch it to Netflix, Sky Documentaries, BBC, like all of those. We want it to be on a mainstream platform, but we also want to enter it into film festivals. So there's going to be screenings. Renmut, who did Detoxification, did such an amazing job with that, and she's doing. So we don't want to rush it. This isn't a rush job. This is something that they're going to pour a lot of love and attention to in terms of the storytelling.
Sure.
With the fundraising, we are £20,000. We have a shortfall in terms of our fundraising. So we're speaking to sponsors, we're speaking to organisations that could help us meet that shortfall. So here's the thing: the fundraising is still going on because we believe in this film. We believe it needs to be out there.
I'll put the link onto the descriptions and everything from there.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And we're so grateful, so grateful to all the sponsors, all the donors, everyone that stepped forward and supported it and got us to this point, like the point where we did it. We've done it. We've got footage, and this film, I think, is just going to shake things up a little bit in terms of the conversations women are having at home about what they want to do, what their dreams are, what their desires are, about the conversation their daughters are having, but also the conversation our mothers are having, because this has the potential of really shaking things up for all of our women, and that's what we want to do. That's what we want to see.
And Nims, he liked the post, didn't he, or something like that? I saw that.
He sent us a message, and he's incredible. So I don't know if you have you seen 14 P?
Yeah. Because one of the questions I was going to ask you was like, was there a lot of litter up there?
Actually, no.
Okay.
It was okay, and they're very kind of strict about what so in Tanzania you can't take single-use plastic, you can't take carrier bags, you can't take the Ziploc bags, and so they're very strict about that. And we want to, we have a love for nature. We have a love for what we're doing. You need to treat Mother Earth how you want to leave it, how you want the next generation to have it. So actually they were very, very strict about it.
Yeah. His 14 Peaks was like really, I remember watching that and just seeing, that's a different breed of human, like the way that he was doing, that mentality, that mental strength, and what he was doing to do some of those peaks within 48 hours and 24 hours and like smashing records, and the way he's done it. I thought like that's a different level of mentality, what he was doing. And
he has changed the face of and the game when it comes to mountaineering, and to see a Nepali do that is incredible. So some of us, me, Kiran, some of the others, we went to the same altitude center that he trained at is here in London. And so some of the guys that trained him trained us, and all of them said the same. They were like, he's a beast. The way he trains, the way his body is made up, but also the fact that he's just so incredibly kind and humble. And for what I took away from the documentary, that his film, was how hard it was for him to get the money to do that mission, to do the expedition. So he was fundraising for nearly a year, and in the end they remortgaged their house and they had to go ahead and do it. And then the sponsors came on board. But yeah, he was incredible. So he was kind enough to message us a good message, and which I thought was really, really amazing.
That was brilliant. That's going to make the film brilliant. It's just going to be.
Well, yeah, we want to get him. We want to get
yeah.
London. We want to get him at the screening, and we want, He's a massive role model and inspiration for us.
Okay, so the future then. Okay, so I want to kind of focus. What does the sort of next 12 months look like for you guys?
Who's starting?
It's got to kind of focus around Machu Picchu, because this is the plug for that bit now.
Oh, okay. Good thing you mentioned that then. Okay. So we don't want to stop just here. It was never meant to be, let's just do Kilimanjaro and stop. So next year we're going to Peru. I'm taking a group of women to Machu Picchu and doing the Inca Trail. I just feel really, really passionately about adventure, about seeing the world. And so whilst we loved Kilimanjaro and loved Africa, we live in this incredible world, and then we live in a world where there's so much to see. So that is the focus. The film is the focus, getting the film out there, getting it entered into film festivals, into screenings, and getting it out there. And let's see. I think everything that we've done has been around just following our intuition and just doing things, and here's the beauty. I don't even know what's next. I don't even know what we're going to be blessed with. But what I do believe is, if you've got a group of women that are behind you and support you, anything is possible. So let's see what next year brings, in addition to all of that.
And I just, Belinda, are you going on this, or is it still going to be kind of like a chill out holiday?
No, Belinda's chill out holiday this time. So no,
Belinda's like, she needs to go sit on a beach with her kids, and like.
Maybe the year after, whatever the adventure that is, I think.
Because there's a series on at the moment on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse. There's a guy called Graham Hancock, and he's gone into like the history around kind of Machu Picchu as well. So I definitely want to get that. I want to get your opinions on it from there. But I just want to kind of say something else in terms of what you guys have been doing, because you recently put a blog around kind of like the loneliness of secondary infertility as well. And I think those kind of subject matters and tackling stigmas and those taboo subjects are massive, and I just want to congratulate you on that kind of work as well. And it needs to be kind of shared out a lot. It's something personal to quite a lot of us as well, even in relationships as well, how it affects it. But I think having that spoken word and having been put down on paper or digital in any way is massive. So I want to say kind of a really big thank you to you guys, and to make sure that you keep that kind of content, those subject matters definitely on the public agenda.
Thank you. And yeah, we do. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about depression. We've talked about suicide. We've talked about addictions. So I don't shy. There's no topic that we will shy away from. That we've talked about LGBT. We've talked about loads of different things. And that platform, the A.W.M.B platform, in terms of writing a blog, is open to anyone. Like, I encourage people to send stuff in that we want to publish those stories, and I think if it just helps one person feel less alone, our job is done. That's what we're here to do. Is to navigate this life that we've been given, and just feel like actually someone understands that I'm not alone in doing this. That is it. That's the whole purpose of what we're doing.
Okay, right. The last question that I do, it's called the Bhandwagon. So this is where I kind of open it out to the guests, where I basically say, is there a bandwagon that you want to jump off, or is there anything that you want to get off your chest? This is the virtual safe space for you to unload. No attachments, but just generally just.
So what was it? Bandwagon you want to get off?
You can jump on or jump off, or is there anything that you just want to get off your chest? This is your space.
So mine would just be, let's get behind people that are doing good things. I think there's so many incredible things happening in the South Asian community. We've got podcasts, films, creatives. There's so much good happening. I think if we can come together and put our differences aside and just come together as a community, we are formidable. So that's what I would just say is get behind people who are doing good things and you know, really get behind them. Don't think, actually, if it was my mate, I'd get behind them. Like, get behind them and support them.
Kira?
You know what? Just show up for yourself. Show up for yourself. Show up for your people. You know, there's so many people that I think Benji said earlier on that will try and pull your legs. You know, we don't need to be that kind of weird nonsense Punjabi community. We need to be the people that really step up and actually step up for our own, because it's so important, it's so key. And if I hadn't found some of these spaces, I could have been in a really different situation to where I am now. So share it as well, because sometimes we've got this thing that we find something and we want to keep that secret to ourselves, like God forbid should anybody find out. It's so important, you know, share the love, share it out, because there is space for everyone. There is space for everyone.
Belinda?
Yeah, just be a cheerleader for everyone, really. The world's a big place and there's a space for everyone, really. And I know we're talking about people dragging people down, but there are a few, and good people, there are many. So if we can all stick together, we can achieve big things.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. It's really inspiring. I think there's so much golden nuggets to take what everyone's kind of shared today, and I'm sure it's going to resonate with people when they listen to it or watch it or wherever it's going to be. But thank you for taking the time out, and I will definitely kind of catch up with you guys once the film's out. I'm going to hold you accountable. When's the film? I want to know about Machu Picchu. Right. I want to know about all of it. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Ricky.
Thanks for having us.
No problem. See you later.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.